Well, haven't made a video in a little while, and about a month ago I think we left off right about here. Things haven't gone extremely well. Alright, just got through putting these gauges in. Feel a whole lot better with a good oil pressure gauge, temperature gauge. Always nice to know how much fuel you got, and tach and speedometer. Comes on, bam. RPM is responsive. Alright, yes, we have gauges and instruments. What we're looking at right here is that oil pressure gauge. If you notice, it dips up and down just a little bit while the engine idles steadily. Well, that oil pressure you see is cold oil pressure. When that thing gets hot, it's like 5-7 pounds of oil pressure. So I've got to go in and replace the, yep, you guessed it, the O-rings. LSs are notorious for this oil O-ring giving out on the oil pickup tube. Well, all right, that almost worked. I don't know how well this will come through on camera, but there's a couple little marks on it there. I don't know if those are just marks or cracks. And the thing is hard as a rock. Let's see if we can walk it off of here. It will flex, but it's very hard to flex. Well, we've got a nice oiled up O-ring here. One thing I noticed when I took this out, not only is the old O-ring hard as a rock, but it also left some of the O-ring on this. I've cleaned it off. You can still see some orange on it, but it had little chips on it and in the hole on the oil pump. So, and this is what we're looking at for the old O-ring. Very flat on the inside, very flat on the outside, very stiff. It hasn't really cracked up yet, but probably some air was getting by it, hopefully. I believe that's the problem anyway. And one hole in this, 2 holes in the pump. I don't know why. GM, what's up to that? That all dropped in there quite easily. 18 foot-pounds for this nut and 106 inch-pounds for this bolt right here. Let me get those put in and we'll move on. There we go. Oh, I dropped a socket. Definitely not a how-to video, just a what I did video. This bolt right here is real hard to get to, so you want to make sure you hang that in a gasket so that it's up there so you don't have to fish it up in between the transmission and the oil pan. But other than that, it's just a bit of a jigsaw slash Tetris puzzle to get everything high enough, far enough forward, and far enough over for this corner right here to clear. And the amazing thing is that you'll basically have it in the same spot for a minute or two, because I tried putting it up in here once before, and all of a sudden it will just fall in place. Well, I think. Well, it did. Also, this bolt right here, you want it hanging in the gasket, because that bolt will not come out because it hits the edge of this pan, so you can't get the length of this bolt in once it's up here. There we go. I think that's it. Almost. What the? There we go. I didn't have the forward end far enough that way to get all the way in. Now, get one started in this front corner. Just a couple threads. And one started in the back corner. All right, now this back bolt on the pan, the one you can just barely see there, line this light up, right there. couple of ways you can do it. You can put a swivel on the end of this extension, Or you can do this. Put the extension up through this slot, because it won't slide past it going forward. So you put the extension up through this slot, stick a socket on it, and then it will line up with that bolt. And whether I can get that bolt to start this way, I don't know. This is how I got it out, though. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it to start this way. Because of the angle of the extension, it's going to try to push the bolt off at that same angle. So what I'm trying to do is slip the socket partway off of the nut so that the bolt can pivot over, and I'm pushing this way on the bottom end of the extension. And I think it started. All right. So we'll have to get back in there and torque that one, but this works pretty good. Specs I found were 18 foot-pounds on these side bolts and 106 on the two little ones in the back. I'm a little skeptical about 18 foot-pounds on those, but we'll see how it feels as I tighten them. But that's what the spec says. Now we'll just get a few more bolts started, come back and torque them up. And in order to get that bolt loose and probably to get the pan down, you have to take this tensioner loose. There's a bolt right back here that goes straight into the block. And I took the bolt loose that's right about here, and another one right about up here that goes straight into the front of the block. And that allowed me to pivot this back out of the way. And other than that, it worked out pretty good. Now I just got to finish pushing the subframe back up into place. I've pried it around a little bit, got my motor mount bolts to line back up. I loosened this motor mount, dropped that bolt out right there, dropped this bolt out right there, and loosened both of these on this side about 3/4 of an inch so it could pivot a little bit and drop down on this end. And that's worked out pretty good. Going up. I might be able to get a bolt in there. Well, I think all the bolts are tight, all the fittings are tight. It's got oil in it, so let's see what happens. So far, so good. Yes, indeed. That's more oil pressure than what I had before, and it's staying steady. Take a quick look underneath of it, see if anything's running out anywhere. Looks all right. Sounds all right. And the oil pressure is holding, just over 60. All right, that was worth doing, definitely worth doing. And the oil pressure gauge over here agrees. And usually after just a moment or two of idling, it would drop back down to about 20 on that gauge. But then this gauge, being the more honest of the two, would drop to almost 0 and kind of flutter. So yeah, I'm glad I did that. I'm gonna take it for a test drive now and see what happens. Well, first I'm going to lift it up and check for any leaks, stuff like that. But I'm gonna take it for a test drive, see what happens. Well, at the moment it looks pretty good. I don't see any leaks yet. No oil pouring off anything. I've tightened all the bolts, tightened the motor mount bolts. I only loosened 4 of them. Oh yeah, and oh, you know what you didn't do? You haven't put the belt back on yet. Man, that thing could have caught and slung itself all over the place. And so we'll jump ahead to after the test drive, and I'll show you a few photos of oil on the ground and stuff like that, and I'll make this a lot less painful for you than it was for me. I took the pan back down again because I thought maybe my pan gasket that I put in was causing the oil leaks. Well, turns out it was a combination of rear main seal, cover plate gaskets, front and rear main, all that stuff, because I took all of that off. I took the motor completely out, redid the front and rear main seals, and oh, incidentally, that belt there that I did not put all the way on, that didn't catch this time around. Oh, you know what you didn't do? You haven't put the belt back on yet. Man, that thing could have caught and slung itself all over the place. The second time I took the oil pan back off, it did catch, and it took out the front main seal. So then I ended up with even more leaks. Well, anyway, here's a picture of the motor sitting on the ground, and we'll get back to what was going on after that. I am happy to report that I did not abandon the project. I did get the motor back in. It was considered to just scrap the whole thing because this was very disheartening. But anyway, it is back together, and I'd like to show you what the floor looks like where it parks now. Man, am I relieved. All right, no more leaks. I can drive this thing wherever I want to go. So how about let's just jump to the part where I take it on a little test drive, run it up and down the road a little bit. Nothing exciting, just a normal drive, no smoking tires and trying to break things, but here we go. All right, this isn't this car's first voyage since I put the motor back in, but I've fixed all the oil leaks. I've taken it on a couple of 10-minute long, 15-minute long trips. Seems like all the oil leaks have stopped for now. So now I'm actually going to drive it across town, go over to a buddy of mine's house, see how he's coming on his new boat shed. Anyway, I've got a decision to make in a little ways up here. I can either go on through town, or I can take the ramp and hit the interstate for a couple miles. And the question is it ready for the interstate? Because, you know, there's no place to pull off to the edge on the interstate. I mean, there's the shoulder, but you can't really leave a car parked there, call your buddy, have him bring a trailer, come rescue you, whatever. So, yeah, that decision will be made in a minute or two here. All right, here we enter the construction. First bump. Not too bad. Well, let's hope they don't have any steel plates across the highway anywhere. Those will be kind of rough. And here's where it's going to get a little rough. Not bad. Ooh, straddle that big hole. Did pretty good on the railroad tracks. Yeah, it can handle construction. I mean, we were only rolling 20 miles an hour through there, but it'll be so very nice when they finish this up. Oh, slid a front tire there. Oh, all this used to have a few ruts across it. It's all paved now. That's nice. And let's see if we can hop across this. It could go through a construction site. I figured I might be, you know, cracking a few teeth after I went through there. Let's slow down for this a little bit. That was a construction bump. Now this is the kind of weather this car was made for. I don't have AC in it yet, so the high for today is like 80 degrees, so it's comfortable in this car. I've taken it out on drives before during the summer when it's like 96 and you can't do that. So anyway, I'm going to end this right about here. I'm getting closer to my buddy's house and I'm not going to record right up to his front door, so I'll see you on the way back, and we'll probably take the interstate back.